So with module 30, we're getting some new gear, and I really don't like how it looks. It will have a bunch of new bonuses, and so I've made a document which shows you exactly everything that this gear is going to provide us. You'll be able to see, is there anything you want to be going for? Honestly, there's not much. So let's go through the good, the bad, and the ugly. The latter definitely being how it looks. So we'll begin here with the Master Dread Sanctum weapons. That is the new Master Dungeon coming, which requires 105,000 item level. I will say though, the dungeon's a lot easier than past ones. That could well be because of there being no alpha testers with this one. But yes, these new weapons have an absolute ton of item level. However, their effect is not great. At best, you get 12% movement speed while within the Pirate Skyhold, which is like, okay then, do I really need that here? The new dungeon is not the Pirate Skyhold, so there's not a lot of point to it. And then, while you're in combat, for every 3 seconds, you can gain up to 3% base damage boost, and if you're a damage dealer, 4.5% crit severity. If you're a healer, 3% overall outgoing healing, and if you're a tank, 3% awareness. So all things considered, these weapons are very poor. The base damage is also only 200. Other weapons give upwards of 275. So these weapons, I'm ranking them as there are a lot better ones to be getting. Sure, they're usable, primarily just for the item level, but yeah, if you're at that level, there are absolutely better ones you could have gotten. The color coding here I'm using is like white is pretty terrible, green is like you're better off looking for alternatives ASAP, gold is like okay, and magenta is like yeah, it can be best in slot. So these weapons are very meh, not something I would use. Moving on to the advanced versions, they're basically exactly the same. All they have is 300 less item level, as you can see there, going from 3,400 down to 3,100. The bonus, exactly the same benefits. And we also have the campaign weapons, which also have the same effect, but slightly less. Like the general bonus can be only then 2%, plus DPS can only be 3%, and healers and tanks can only gain 2%. The advanced version of this dungeon will require 70,000 item level, and the campaign itself will require 80,000 item level. But there'll be that grace period. Anybody can come here, and if you're less than 80,000, you get scaled up and you'll have no problem at all killing all the enemies and actually getting your hands on these weapons. You will very simply have to kill some mini bosses and you'll get the weapons in no time at all. This guy's an example. I'll make a map for them so you can look forward to that. But again, not weapons I would use. You're actually better off right now going to Mount Hote now, the Mountain of Flame, and actually getting the weapons from here. They will be very, very usable, even going into this new module. Now we move to the armor. This coming from the Master Dread Sanctum. We have the tank stuff for Paladin, Barbarian, and Fighters. The entire set will simply look like this, ugly if you ask me. And then the bonuses are also pretty terrible. The headpiece has a 30% chance when using an encounter power to gain 8% awareness for 6 seconds. Pretty unreliable. Specifically on Paladin, you're not always spamming encounter powers. And then the chest piece, when you're struck by combat advantage damage, you have a 20% chance to increase your deflect severity by 11% and force aid by 7%. That's a lot of stats, but it only lasts 8 seconds and there's a 15-second cooldown. It's usable, but it's not great. The arms then can give you upwards of 5% defense, but you lose 10% crit severity. They're okay because, yeah, they can be reliable. You just have to deal damage, but I would just get better options. And then the boots are just super terrible. What's up with this? You can gain a maximum of 5% control resistance and minus 2.5% incoming damage. And this scales on your health. So if you're full of health, you gain no effect. If you're at 25% health, overall, absolutely terrible. You'd only use them for the item level. And it's going to be the same with the rest of these bonuses too, but at least these other ones give you somewhat of a useful effect. So we move on to then healers. The Paladin, Cleric, Warlock, and Bard. Paladins and Clerics will have a set like this. with then warlocks and bards looking like this. Now the bonuses are at least not as bad as the tanks. You have the headpiece giving you upwards of 4% outgoing healing and 4% crit strike. Combined with the item level, it makes it very good. I'm not going to consider it best in slot because the enchanted Bregan one can actually give 5% of outgoing healing and 5% power, so just more stats. The chest piece then, when I use an encounter power, you will heal the allies for additional 80,000 and grant them 3% defense for 5 seconds. Now this is somewhat useful primarily for the defense because that's going to be added survivability. So I'm not going to say it's that terrible. At least you have an extra support effect. But especially on warlocks and bards, there's no question you got to be using the enchanted Bregan one instead, reducing the enemy's defense, awareness and crit avoidance. So it's for sure not best in slot. The arms then can give you a maximum 20% like healer resource. You can still be better off going with the ultraviolet ones, which are 25%. So not best in slot. The boots can give you 25% regen, but they're only going to be good for healers who can maintain the stacks, which are going to be heal over time healers, bards, clerics and warlocks on say the Fey Pact. So they can be best in slot, but not for like a paladin, I wouldn't say, unless you really are spamming heals all the time. But then we go to the damage gear. So for rogues, clerics, bards, rangers, barbarians, fighter, wizards, warlocks. Again, the sets will look a little bit different. This is for your rogue, cleric, bards and rangers. This for your fighters and barbarians, with then your wizards and warlocks. Now the bonuses are also not great. The headpiece is usable. Yeah, you can gain up to 10% crit strike while you're within like up to 50 seconds in combat. If you die, those are going to reset. So not the best for challenging content where you do die a lot. But they still have the potential, most amount of stats, 10%, and the most amount of item level. Not going to say they're best in slot because we generally don't need that much crit strike. Specifically going into this next module, we'll be wanting more combat advantage and more crit severity and more power. Crit strike's still pretty easy to get, specifically with lightning flash giving so much. The armor piece here is just terrible. Do not use it. When you use a daily power, you gain a 20% damage boost to 1 encounter power, and that's it. 30-second cooldown. Absolutely not worth it at all. There are far better ones which can give you upwards to 15% stats to 18% stats. Then the arms, these can be useful like in multi-target situations where you're fighting 3 or more enemies. Even in the new dungeon, you can fight multiple enemies quite a lot of the time with all these tentacles. I assume they account for enemies. They do have hit point bars, but the first and second boss are not the case. And yeah, it gives upwards of 9% crit severity, which we will need. And the boots then can give you 5 to 10% accuracy. Somewhat useful, but still I don't like them connected to our action points. We kind of want maximum damage, like even before we use our daily power. So this isn't really ideal, but we can make some use of it, particularly because the item level. Maybe I should have tagged this one as gold. We're going to move on then to the advanced stuff. The visuals are basically going to be the same. There's just a little bit of a color scheme difference, going from like a lighter color, which is horrible, to then a darker blue, which is a bit better. But I won't go through them all as the model of them are exactly the same. It's just colors. And we have then for the tanks here, yeah, exactly the same bonuses, guys. The only difference is the item level. So the headpiece, armor piece, arms, all still pretty bad there. Better off getting other alternatives ASAP, and the boots just garbage. Then for your healers, same story. It's, yeah, all pretty much same here. You get a little bit less item level with the boots, so they're technically not best in slot, but still very good because you can get up to 25% regen. And then for the DPS here, same again. The headpiece can be very good. The armor's terrible. Arms can be pretty good. And the boots are, yeah, not great. And these, keep in mind again, are coming from advanced, all this gear. So will be much more accessible. You'll still need 70,000 item level, but it'll be much easier to complete. However, we move on to the armor that you will get through the Pirate Skyhold campaign. Now, funnily enough, the bonuses are also all the same as the previous legendary and mythic gear, just a little bit less, and you're able to get all pieces on one character. So you're not limited based on if you're a tank or a healer or a DPS. You can see all the armor is going to be here. You're just going to have to play the campaign a bit to buy it. We have a quick look at the visuals of it. So one set is going to be like this, and then another set's going to be like this, within the last set like this. Honestly, it looks better than the legendary or mythic armor that you're getting through the dungeon. But fair enough, the dungeon armor is like from the Dread Sanctum. It's all about like illithids. And so I guess this prismatic stuff does make some sense. It themes a little bit with that place, which I guess is all right. I just personally don't like the look of it whatsoever. But let's look at the bonuses of these. As we mentioned, they are pretty much the same. So we have the set here, which gives us like the same as the damage dealers, just a little bit less stats. So you can gain 5 stacks here of 1.4%. So the headpiece can give 7% crit strike. The armor piece, again, terrible with the bonus damage after you use the daily power. The arms here giving up to 6% crit severity is not bad. It's useful in multi-target. And the boots there, dependent on your action points and giving you some accuracy. Then you have the set which copies the healers with the headpiece there, the chest, the arms, the boots. All, again, they're useful in their own right. Like, you're going to use them as stepping stone gear, and at least that stepping stone gear is better than what we had in previous modules. And then you have this set here which copies the tanks. So the headpiece there giving like the awareness, the chest piece, deflex severity and 40, the arms giving the extra defense when you attack, and then the boots being terrible with the control resistance and tiny bit of incoming damage scaled based on how much HP you lose. But yeah, available to everybody, but at a bit of an Astro Diamond cost. Useful because mainly the item level. Like a new player who's just got to level 20, they're giving 3,000 item level each here. That's just free gains to be able to then unlock new content, like new campaigns and things like that, which they might be locked behind. So it can be worth getting, and at least it doesn't have the worst bonuses on them. You can go wrong a lot worse in other areas. But we move on to rings. Again, the new dungeon will have new mythic rings, and you'll get legendary ones from advanced as well. But these rings are not great. You have one that gives 7% 40. All right, and you have another one that can give up to 4% power if you're in a full team, and also boosting your team's forte by 1%. And you actually have 2 of those rings with the exact same bonus, so you'll get to choose which one you want based on the ratings. One gives crit strike and outgoing healing, the other crit strike and forte. So yeah, one's going to be their clear choice for DPS and the other one for like healers. The only issue is the forte ring is dedicated for tanks. You can't have it as a DPS because it has defense and awareness ratings. You do have the damage in the Pirate Skyhold themed maps, 4% here, here, and here, all giving like a ton of ratings. I assume it's balanced in a way that, because the bonus is not the best, they have more ratings. Like, they're giving 9,450 plus 2,100. That's over 11,000 rating points there, which is more than if you look at these other ones, which maybe give only like 10,000. But still, it's a little confusing. Why are they giving us damage bonus rings for only within Pirate Skyhold themed maps? It should really give you the bonus in the new dungeon, because that's actually where you're getting the rings. Maybe they will fix that or adjust that before this goes live. I can only hope, but as for now, I'm just going to border them in green because they are pretty meh. You don't need that extra damage when we're just doing heroic encounters and questing in this zone. It's not that difficult at all. Then we go to the advanced rings, and they're basically the same. Exact same bonuses, easier to get, just a little bit less item level. These mythic ones 3,500 and the legendary ones 3,150. So yeah, same story, exactly what I said there with the mythic rings. We move on to then the rings you're going to get from heroic encounters and mini bosses. I killed one and got this ring, despite the collection saying they only come from like heroic encounters. Maybe it's just not listed there yet. But these epic rings, funnily enough, are again the exact same copy of the legendary and mythic ones. Just the bonuses are a bit less, like only 4% forte, only gaining 3% power, and only gaining 3% damage. but still, same ratings and just a bit less item level down to 2800. Again, they're useful. You're dropping them here from just mini bosses, so they're super easy to get and a massive item level boost. However, we'll move on to the clothing. You can see how they will look like there for like male and female character. You'll be able to change the colors of it how you want, but the actual bonuses are pretty meh. So all the shirts, there's nothing great here, honestly. You have ones that when your stamina is under 25%, you gain a bunch of deflect, somewhat useful for tanks, and probably the one I would go with as a tank, with 2600 item level. But it is just not something you can really rely on. You generally want survivability when you have full shield and you're ready to take like a tank buster. But maybe I should have put it in a gold border. That is a lot of ratings, and if you do continually block attacks, this will probably be up a lot. Then you just have, when your stamina is over 75%, you gain 3% recharge speed. There's 2 of them like that with just different ratings. Pretty meh, if I'm honest. And they're kind of directed at healers with the outgoing healing there and also the outgoing healing here. But I would definitely go with better options. Then there's the ones where you deal combat advantage damage and you have a 7% chance to gain 20 action points and a 10-second cooldown. This would be okay if it had a 5-second cooldown. But 10 seconds means there's better options with a 5-second cooldown than that. Ones that give 25 action points on a 5-second cooldown and a 10% chance to trigger, not just 7. And yeah, there's 3 shirts which are like that with the exact same bonus. So you're just looking at different ratings there. Then the trousers are not great on these first ones. When you deflect, you can gain 7% max HP. When you critically strike, you can gain 10 action points with a 5-second cooldown. That's a measly amount. That's 1% of your total action points, and only once every 5 seconds. But these pants that can give 9% crit severity are actually pretty good, because whenever you're healed in combat, they can trigger. And you get healed in combat a lot, especially if you're using, say, life lessons. That will heal you like all the time. And since we are attacking a lot, you will probably have that effect more often than not. So 9% crit severity, of which you'll need 120%, can be very useful. Onto the advanced ones, the legendary shirt and pants, it's just exactly the same story, a bit less item level. 2600 on mythic, 2350 on legendary. And yep, exactly the same bonuses there, no difference whatsoever. And then you'll have clothing for the heroic encounters in the Pirate Skyhold. You'll have the shirts, same bonuses, but a bit less effectiveness, like less deflect ratings, 2% recharge speed, and then only 15 action points instead of 20 there. And then the trousers giving like only 7 action points there, and then still can actually give the full 9% crit severity, surprisingly. So they are very good. But yeah, 2100 item level, so not as good as, say, the 2600 item level ones you could get up here. The mythic ones, but nonetheless, very good for what they are, at just super easy to obtain. At least if they'll have a decent drop rate on heroic encounters. But then finally we move to the artifact sets. So just doing the campaign and your heroic encounters, you can get this one. 3400 item level. I have this set equipped here, and that'll give you the ability when you kill an enemy to summon a skeleton. And I have tried to trigger that and didn't actually get that effect. We'll try it again. We nuke an enemy and no skeleton. We just got these guys surprising us. We can kill this one a bit slower and no skeleton. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but we're not getting one to trigger. We're killing it within, say, 10 seconds. No skeleton came to help me. We can kill it in one hit. No skeleton. So the set bonus doesn't seem to be working at all. And ultimately, what makes this set even worse is the fact it doesn't have ability scores. What is this? No ability score bonuses. So you're losing out on a significant amount of damage versus using, like, say, the Shroomwood set, which is going to give 6 ability scores here and another 6 here. However, the artifact is best in slot. It's going to have 2000 item level and all offensive stats. So you're going to want to have it for slotting in to give you those stats. And surprisingly, 2000 combined rating, meaning you don't lose any of your other stats at all. The effect as well, using it as primary, you deal damage to enemies and then cause them to take 10% increased damage is very good for then say artifact calls. So it is somewhat useful. We can have a quick look at like it right here. I will have to test if it actually causes us to increase damage, but you can see you summon the guy, he shot him, and that's it. Hopefully it actually does increase our damage against the target. I will test, say, in another video. And then this set here, 3400 item level as well, which will be coming from, I assume, Master and Advanced Dread Sanctum. I haven't confirmed, but this does actually have some ability scores on the belt, but it has the bonus of Flames of Kozuth, allowing you to reduce the enemy's damage dealt by 5% for 10 seconds when you use a daily power. So it's okay, somewhat useful for that, but not great as well. Not really a set I would use. You're better off with, like, if you want to reduce the enemy's damage, you reduce it all the time and you go with, say, the Valhalla set, or you increase the enemy's damage taken and you go with Vistani, or you go with Marilith, or you go with Apocalypse. But then the artifact, the only reason you'll take it is the 2000 item level, but the problem with it, it gives defensive stats and it doesn't have stamina regen, so it's not great for a tank. The active effect as well here can increase the enemy's damage taken by 7.5%, but that's not 10%, so it's not as good as just using an alternative. And that is ultimately everything for all the gear we're getting in Module 30 that we can see so far. Who knows, we might get hunts or something and they'll add new gear, I don't know, but this is all we can see right now in the collections and what's available by playing content on the preview test server right here. Overall, I'm a bit disappointed. There's not a lot of great things here. Like, weapons, terrible. None of them are good. The armor for tanks, awful. The armor for healers, yeah, okay. Very similar to previous ones. DPS, yeah, not great here either. Just another helmet giving 10% crit strike, and yeah, boots, which are a bit weird with the amount of action points you have. I don't like it tied like that. And yeah, I mean, then you have rings, which are kind of meh as well. Sure, they give an absolute ton of ratings, and then for some reason only damage in Pirates Skyhold themed maps. That needs to be changed to also be within the Dread Sanctum. But like 4% power is okay, but you generally want a ring giving upwards of 7.5% stats, not just 4. But yeah, I think the only good thing here then for DPS is actually just going to be the pants giving the 9% crit severity, and then like the artifact. So it's super limited on what's actually useful if you've played any other content in the game. I get it, if you have nothing better, then it's okay for the item level and then work towards better bonuses. But come on, this gear is coming into master content. It's supposed to be a bit of a challenge to obtain, and then it just has these terrible bonuses. I don't get it. I really don't get why they're just making gear that is so bad. Just look at what we actually use and at least extrapolate from that and make something a bit better, or at least the same but with more item level. I'm sure you devs have received plenty of feedback on what's actually good, what we actually want for gear. So just please go and listen to us, because this just will not do. So much gear and just so much garbage. But alas, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to all these channel members for their extra support. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.